He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom, I'll keep my guns, try to keep my money and my religion too. Now keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. I'm going to keep my big BA, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
You know what we need? We know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. My guest today is Star Hills from California. Hello, Star. How are you?
Good morning, Clay. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, dear. Except I still can't see you on Blog TV, so I don't know quite how to do that, but...
Yeah, I can't find where to click to bring up the video, except for on the Skype thing, so...
Yeah, well, that's all right. Let me ask you, give me a little bit of background about you. We were introduced through a mutual acquaintance, somebody that I've had on my show, Robert Ote, and but you're kind of billed as an activist. What created that? For me, it was Waco. What happened at Waco, I was just outraged behind that, and so I started a magazine and the militias and trying to get information out to people. But what's your background and what got you interested in what's really happening in America?
Well, I could probably say that, I've always questioned authority because it was the way that I was raised. My father was a political cartoonist back in the 60s, and so that he was also an anthropologist, a sociologist, and archaeologist. So he was very much into symbolism, and so he taught me a lot about just to question authority. And when I had children, I went through a whole lot of lawsuits and people lying about me. I've always had an adversity to people who lie. And so I've always kind of been a defender of, the truth. And I think what really got me being really active, besides the lawsuits and finding out how corrupt the courts were, fighting for my children and putting a rapist away for raping my daughter. That was, and seeing how corrupt the whole system was in doing that. But I think what really, really woke me up was 9/11, around 2004, when I was, I always had questions about 9/11 from the start, about Building 7 especially, because I saw it on TV that day. And not a lot of other people saw that, but but I didn't think anybody else saw what I saw or thought what I thought, so I just really didn't think there was anything I could do or say about it until around 2004 when I started seeing that other people were having the same questions I was having. And then I spent probably the next 3 years doing nothing but researching 9/11. I mean, day and night, until I probably just couldn't even take it anymore. I was almost in a fetal position for the first 6 months, learning all of the scandal. And then, you know, since about 2008, I've just had so many problems with police and legal battles, being kidnapped by sheriffs and assaulted and robbed, and having 5 agents bust into my house looking for somebody with no probable cause, and terrorizing me, getting forced out of my home by the banks. A year ago, right before Christmas, after fighting for about 3.5 years with them, I'm still involved in many lawsuits against the banks, judges, sheriffs. So there's a lot going on.
This is kind of strange because I'm working on a story right now. You know, years ago I did a story on the CIA back when George Bush was running it, and I exposed CIA drug smuggling, Mossad drug smuggling. But then I started Free American, and I started getting harassed. Now that's done in such a manner that it's really hard to tell whether it's just business related. Is it just the way things go? You know, you get competition, somebody's talking bad about you, somebody's spreading rumors, and but it didn't really get serious until I became one of the first 9/11 truthers. I put Building Number 7 on the cover of my magazine in March of 2004. That went out to every major bookstore out there, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. And, you know, the next thing I know, I'm in a hospital and not expected to live. Kept drugged for 3 months up in Phoenix. Now, it hasn't been that extreme with you, but even since then, it's almost like psychological warfare on you. You know, suddenly a friend don't call, suddenly a family member's mad at you, suddenly you know, a business deals go sour because they heard this or they heard that, or you never even know why they went sour, because they don't want to talk to you no more. What have you experienced? Anything like that?
Oh yeah, my children have pretty much just left me by the wayside. Much of my family and friends have, you know, they don't want to talk to me anymore. They don't want to hear what I have to say. They, you know, they think I'm crazy. All the usual things that go along with, you know, turning off the TV. But I think when I really started being targeted, well, I noticed it when I would go to certain websites, or when I would look up certain things on the internet, because when I was researching 9/11, and I still do, and other subjects, but I go to the DOD website, I go to the White House website, I go into a lot of the, you know, the National Archives, I go to a lot of these websites to look for information, and I was starting to notice that helicopters were flying over my house, you know, and I'm just like, I'm nobody, that couldn't be, you know, they couldn't be putting out this kind of expenditure for me, for little old me. There's just no way. But it is is a pretty uncanny coincidence that quite often when I'm doing something that could be controversial, maybe, on the internet, that helicopters seem to appear around me quite often. But I think that I really started being targeted once I served all of the government with notices of status. It was claims of right and my own sovereign notices. And first, what I did was I sent them all a questionnaire, like all of the the presidents, secretaries of state, the Congress people, senators, the local in my area, the local administration, like the mayor, sheriff, and just the locals, congressmen. And I also sent these notices to the prison bureau, the attorney general, the postmaster general, the chief judge, or whatever you call him in the Hague. It was Ban Ki-moon, I think.
Now, what you say you lost your home? You had property. They came after that, and what are we talking about? How did they do this? How did you get involved in this in the first place? What happened?
Well, when I was learning about the Federal Reserve, let's see, I had taken out a loan. See, everybody in my family died, pretty much, all the old people, after I took care of them, and they left me a couple houses and a yacht. And but I really didn't have money to take care of these things, so I wanted to save all this property for my children to pass on, and so on and so forth. So I decided to take a loan and and tried to start a couple businesses and this and that, and I started learning about the bank scams, and then I started realizing that the loan I took was fraudulent, and there were all kinds of things that didn't add up in it, and they were charging me more interest than they promised, and so it was looking like a breach of the contract. So I decided to do I studied and studied before I really figured out a way to go about it, and I learned about accepted for value and things like that, and certain remedies outside of using the courts, because I was at that time proclaiming my sovereignty, and I didn't want to use any of their legalese. I didn't want to use any of their forms, in dealing with their courts and stuff, and I really didn't know how to go about that. So I started studying, and I learned about AFV, accepted for value, and what I did was I sent the bank an accepted for value, essentially telling them to produce their original note, the original loan, with 2 signatures on it, and I would be happy to pay them every penny that they alleged that I owe them upon them producing their claim. Produce your claim, and I'll pay this thing off. And at that point, they wanted something like $240,000 from me on an alleged $180 loan or something like that. But if I had paid it off, if I had just kept paying it at their rate, by the time I had paid it off, it would have been over $800,000. So So I sent them an accepted for value, and they sent me back some papers, and none of it was proof of claim. So I sent them a default notice, and never heard back from them. Then I sent them. In my notices, what I sent them was a $20 postal money order originally, and in the novation along with the accepted for value letter, I wrote in there, by cashing this check, you've agreed to close this account and open a new account, and here's the account number, which I used the Social Security number without the dashes for the new account number, and also by cashing this check, you agree to the terms of this new contract I'm making with you, which says that any communications after this, after cashing this check and accepting my offer, any communications on the old account, now closed, will assess a fee of $1 million per communication. And any foreclosure attempts on that old account number will assess a fee of $10 million. So they started sending me interest rate increases after that. And so every time they did on the old account number, I sent them a bill for $1 million for that communication. And then when they did attempt to foreclose on me, I sent them a bill for $10 million. For that foreclosure attempt, as per our new contract, because they indeed did cash that check, and I have the proof. It's reflected on one of the statements that they sent to me, and it's in a category, what they used the money for. It just says other. So then I defaulted them, and I sent them all these bills, and nothing came of it. They still came after me. They still tried to force me out, threaten me, and over the next 2.5 years after that, when they, the first attempt, when they put the first 3-day notice to get out on my door, whatever, they hadn't filed any lawsuits or anything against me. I also put in a homestead declaration, filed that into the recorder's office.
Let me try to get in here. I'm sorry, I screwed up here. I didn't get it on a couple of lines here. I'll try to get in on that. Okay. All right, added up Crusade and added Truth Radio. My apologies for both of you. And hopefully Truth Radio will be working here. All right, my guest is Star Hills, so we are broadcasting now. And we're talking about the foreclosure. Now, there's been over 1 million Americans that have been foreclosed upon. And I think we've added 3 million to the unemployment and homeless list across America. And you tried to stand up against this. And they've come after you. They've attacked you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I did a rescission. After I did all that accepted for value and billing them, then I put in a rescission and rescinded my autograph on their alleged documents. And then once I got served with a notice to vacate or whatever, and they said they were going to sell my house at auction, I went to the auction. You can see the videos too on YouTube on Earthica Star. I videotape almost my entire life. We went to the auction at City Hall, and we tried to shut them down. and we posted flyers all over the place, and we, when they called out my house, we yelled and, and told them that buyer beware, there's a lawsuit, because we had already started a lawsuit too by this point, by the time, and we had served them with it. So now they were committing a fraud, because they knew that this property, now there was a lawsuit on it, and they just ignored it. So they couldn't sell it at all. So anybody who would try to buy it would be now included in the lawsuit. So nobody bid on it, and the bank purported to, buy it. Now, the same bank that allegedly gave me a loan, right, the GMAC, purported to buy the house back. And it gets so convoluted how they play this game. Now, I already had a lawsuit against GMAC and the people, the agents purporting to sell my house. I tried to get a restraining order. The judge denied that. So they're all corrupt. I recused that judge. I'm suing that. That's the first judge that we were suing. Then somehow, let's see. Well, they swept my lawsuit under the rug, and they just kept continuing it and ignoring it, and until the bank ended up filing a lawsuit against me, which they couldn't do without addressing the lawsuit I had filed. But they didn't address it. They didn't even mention it, which is another fraud. Then the courts, or the clerks, helped the bank by backdating things, and they didn't even backdate them far enough back, because the bank had been late, like 20 days late, serving me with a response or something. And the clerk backdated their filing 10 days, but it was still 10 days late, and so, which voided it. But they proceeded anyway. They just run over you like a steamroller. They don't listen to any law. They just don't obey their own damn laws. So they managed to get this lawsuit on me, sweep mine under the rug, and proceed with theirs, and they had no lawful authority to do so in the first place. So we just went down the line, recusing judges. I think we've gone through about 2 judges. I don't know how many so far, but they're all included in our lawsuits. I'm hearing a lot of static.
Yeah, I'm trying to cut that off now. I'm trying to fix that. My heater cut on, and that's in the background there. So, but they can still hear you over this, and that'll cut off in a second here.
In the whole course of all of this with the banks, we've and you can see those also. You can see many of my the actual hearings in court. I did them by phone, so I videotaped them, and those are also on YouTube on Earthica Star, or Earthicaster, however you want to say it. Eventually I filed a bankruptcy. Every time they tried to throw us out, we did a notice of non-abandonment with the sheriff, served the sheriff and the levy officers. We managed to stop them 3 times over a course of 2 years. 3 attempts to throw us out. And the 4th attempt was right before Christmas not last year, but in 2010. And I didn't think that they would, we served the sheriff again with notice of non-abandonment, and I also have served the sheriff. You see, with all of these claims of right and notice of status prior to all of this, before any of this bank stuff started, I had served all the administration with that. So, so using that also is, you know, with my sovereign claim, and that, you know, I'm not in your system, I don't belong to you, I don't pay your taxes, I don't agree to any of your adhesion contracts in any way, shape, or form. I don't agree to. You are foreign entities to me, all of you. You know, anyone who purports to be in government or you know, of the United States of America, which is a fictitious corporation, you're foreign entities to me. You're not of my country. In fact, the land under my feet is my own sovereign allodial country. This is my nation under my feet, and I can call it whatever I want, you know. And you know, the thing is I'm asking them to just show me what proof they have that where I ever signed on with them, where I ever had any contract to serve them, follow their rules, where I ever worked for them, where I was ever compensated to work for them. Where's a contract that says I was ever related to you in any way? You know, and they can't do that. They can't because citizenship and driver's licenses and social security numbers and all of those types of contracts are voluntary.
Now,
and someone can't force you into those things.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that link that I sent you, but a story appeared on, I believe this is Huffington Post, that the United States bankruptcy judge Robert Grossman has ruled that MERS business practices are unlawful. He explicitly acknowledged that this ruling sets a precedent that has far-reaching implications for half of the mortgages in this country. MERS is dead, the banks are in big trouble, and all the foreclosures should be stopped immediately while a legislative branch comes up with a solution. Does that help you at all?
Well, I haven't opened that link yet, but it does sound familiar. How recent was that article?
That was February 16th, 2011.
Oh, okay, so it's fairly recent.
Yes, ma'am.
So was that a recent, that was a recent judge's decision, you're saying?
Yes, that's what this is saying, and this is Huffington Post, you know, so you have to take that everything with a kind of a grain of salt there.
Right, and I've heard, you know, I've seen articles before that say the same thing, pretty much. I think within the last year or even longer than that ago, but you know, that they've ruled this whole MERS scandal unlawful, and you know, that should, in my opinion, at the time, I thought that should just overturn all these foreclosures, but nothing seemed to have come of it. We've cited many of these rulings also in our lawsuits, or in my lawsuit. I say ours because Alan David is also my incredible law researcher who's been helping me all this time. And I deeded half of my house to Alan so that he could have standing to go into court on this matter, also because I won't walk into their marble shrines. I will not physically go in there if they